on now.
You go for it. You want?
Yeah. So I've got to wait for Sonia. I'm going to do the emergency evacuation first. Should we be required to evacuate the building, would you please leave the building via the nearest available exit to the chamber? Our assembly point will be in the public car park at the side of the Civic Suite. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please note that this meeting will be audio recorded, and can I ask you to switch off your mobile phones or put them to silence? Thank you. Good morning, my name is Councillor Laureen Shaw and I'm chair today. My other colleagues are
Councillor Arthur Williams.
Councillor David Merrick.
And we have Mrs Rebecca Hurst, who's going to be our council's legal advisor. Can I ask the applicant to please identify themselves and if witnesses are applicable, please?
Good morning, Chairman.
Can you put your microphone on, please, sir?
Good morning, Chairman. My name's Steve Sparrow. I'm a County Licence Officer for Essex Police, and on my right is Gordon Ashford. He is the licensing lead for Essex Police, the licensing manager.
Thank you very much. Please be aware, if you need to speak, you need to turn. We can only have this mic on and another. So if you do need to speak, the council's licensing officer, please.
Good morning, I'm Jen Fowler, Principal Licensing Officer of the Rochester District Council.
Thank you. The premises licence holder.
My name is James Rankin and I'm representing Kevin Horn, who sits to my left, and Alan Simpson is my instructing solicitor.
Thank you. Any reasonable authorities? Any responsible authorities?
Right.
No? Any interested parties? Any representatives that have made any representations and have indicated in advance that they wish to address the subcommittee? It's recommended only one person speak. Okay. We are here for the licensing application of the Pink Toothbrush, section 53A. Anything else I can do? There we go, please. Each person will be allowed 15 minutes permitted for the premises holder to present their submission, 15 minutes permitted for responsible authority, 15 minutes permitted for all interested party submissions, 15 minutes for the applicants to present their case. All parties that make submissions at the hearing will also be given 2 minutes at the end of the hearing to make a closing statement. Okay. The council's licence officer will be asked to introduce the application, please.
Okay, the purpose for the report today is to determine an application for a summary review of a premises licence, in particular to consider what steps considered appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, to decide if the interim steps proposed cease to have effect altogether, or if the premises licence should become subject to any steps which the licensing authority considers are appropriate when making its determination on the review, and to consider relevant representations as a result of the review application. On the 7th of February 2018, an application for a summary review of a premises licence under section 53A of the Licensing Act 2003 was received from Essex Police in respect of a premises licence issued to the Pink Toothbrush, 19 to 23 High Street, Rayleigh. A copy of the application, certificate under section 53A of the Licensing Act and a police officer's statement were served on the premises licence holder and all responsible authorities. The certificate stated that in the opinion of Superintendent Nick Morris of Essex Police, the premises were associated with both serious crime and disorder. On the 8th of February, in accordance with Section 53B of the Licensing Act, the Licensing Authority, after reading the Essex Police Summary Review application, determined that within the 48 hours statutory timeframe to implement interim steps to take effect immediately. The premises to which the application relates is a nightclub situated on Rayleigh High Street. Teelan Limited has held the premises licence with Rochester District Council since the 9th of August 2005. They previously held the licence with the Magistrates Court and have been trading for 30 years. Kevin Horn has been the designated premises supervisor since 2009. When determining the summary review application, the committee must have regard to the promotion of the licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm. All parties involved have been served with the relevant notices and documentation required by paragraph 6 and 7 of the Licensing Act 2003 Hearing Regulations 2005. The options today, the following options are available to members: to modify conditions to such extent as members consider necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and any mandatory conditions that must be included. B, to include from the scope of the premises licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates. C, to remove the designated premises supervisor. D, to suspend the premises licence for a period of not exceeding 3 months. To revoke the premises licence or leave the premises licence in its present state. Recommendation: it is proposed that the subcommittee resolves to determine the application, having considered all representations made at the hearing.
Thank you. Have you got any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
No, this stage,
Thank you. Can I have the premises licence holder's submission, please?
Before the police? Because it's the police's application.
Premises, but we'll do the police first. Yes, sorry, we're going to clarify that. Sorry, yes, we'll do it now. Do it. I'm running in order. I do apologise. I'm running in order, but I've just taken advice. Could we have the police? Thank you.
Just go on.
Yeah, you're on.
Madam Chairman, is my microphone on?
Yes, you are.
It
You've
is.
got a little red.
Okay,
a little
right.
red light.
Okay, thank you.
At the end.
Madam Chairman, there have been serious matters at this club which was determined by the interim steps of the summary review. Since then, Essex Police have been negotiating with the premises licence holder on various conditions which we've agreed with them, and you received a copy prior to this hearing. I don't intend to go through every one of these conditions. You would have read them yourselves. And Essex Police are very grateful to the premises licensing holder who has been very cooperative in regard to adding these new conditions to promote the licensing objectives. So it's clearly a matter for you on how much detail you further wish me to add to that, but to speed the hearing up somewhat, these are agreed conditions, and Essex Police are satisfied at this moment in time.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Do you have any questions regarding the conditions, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Please switch your I'm on. I noticed that in a couple of the conditions, items are to be produced to the police or licensing authority staff upon reasonable request. I'm just a little bit worried about the word reasonable, which is a subjective word, and I'm just concerned whether that might.
You've got to turn it off, David. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
If I could answer that question, Councillor, it's to do with the Data Protection Act, in that we can't make a all-assuming request. We have to show that the request is reasonable under the Data Protection Act, so it is to provide some degree of protection to the licence holder.
Thank you very much. I've also got a question on paragraph 9. The first sentence requires that any seized items should be deposited in it, being the safe or cabinet. It then goes on in the last sentence, I beg your pardon, in the penultimate sentence, to provide that only the police shall have access keys. So that's going to prevent the items being deposited in the safe, I would have thought.
If I may assist, it's a standard condition Essex Police tends to ask premises to use, and there is a manufactured drug safe that allows the envelope or the items to be placed into.
There is another means.
And there is a double locking system where only Essex Police have the key, so it prevents, obviously, door staff from anyone else obtaining the drugs, but someone can put them in.
I'm obliged.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
Yes, thank you. I wonder if you could, on the special conditions on 4, could we have added Halloween and any special occasions?
So could you repeat that question?
On item 4 of the conditions, yeah, we would like to add Halloween and any special occasions.
Tell you why, come on.
Sorry.
So it's a matter for the committee to determine if that's required, and it would be a matter for the premises licence holder to comment on that. I'll be perfectly happy with those dates added in.
Thank you very much.
Have you finished your...
Yes, thank you.
Have you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, you've covered mine, what I was going to ask, which is quite handy. Now, sorry, yes, sir.
Just in response to that last question, if I may, we merely put that on because that's days when their hours are extended. Halloween doesn't tend to have their hours extended, so that was why we'd asked.
They don't have their hours extended.
No, not unless they ask for a temporary event notice. But obviously it is a matter entirely for yourselves if you wish to place it in, but we didn't ask for that particular purpose.
Okay, thank you.
You happy with that?
I am. Thank you.
You happy? Thank you. Now can I go back to the licence holders, please? Thank you.
Just picking up on that last point, I suppose that we could word the condition in this way, that on occasions when a temporary events notice has been applied for and granted and the hours have been extended. Does that make sense? Rather than actually identifying Halloween or any other occasion.
Absolutely.
Excellent. My job is made easier by the fact that I know that 2 of your numbers sat on the original application for summary review, and I also know that all of you have read the papers, and so you will know the background. And there are just 2 or 3 matters of importance. It's a matter of detail that Mr. Horn wishes to correct, because he wouldn't want this committee to leave with the impression that this is somebody that had received warnings from the police and had ignored those warnings. And he wouldn't want you to leave with the impression that this is a set of premises that has a stash of offensive weapons ready and to hand. Just by way of background, these premises have been operated by Mr. Horn for over 35 years now. And under the old Act, the 1964 Act, and under the new Act, the 2003 Act, as in force from 2005, there has never been any application to revoke under the old legislation or any application to review under the new legislation. This is a rare creature in that this is a set of premises which has stayed privately owned for all that period. His staff have been there for years. His barmaid has been there for 33 years. Tony Lord, who's the manager, has been there for 28 years. The disc jockey has been there for 24 years. It's a matter of some pride that Mr. Horn has in these premises, that he's always worked well with the local licensing officer. He was instrumental in starting the pub watch, for example, in town, and he's been was a board member of BEDA for 17 years, is a tireless fundraiser for charities locally and nationally, and so has taken this very seriously indeed. He always, as I say, has enjoyed a good relationship with the police. And in the papers, on first glance, you may have gained the impression that the police wagged their finger at Mr. Horn on the 8th of November and told him that they were unhappy with the state of his door staff. Now, it's unnecessary for me to lock horns with the police, but suffice to say that you will have seen at page 5.1 Tony Lord's statement. He was the person that was present at the meeting, which these gentlemen were not present at, and has a clear recollection that whilst CCTV was sought in relation to an incident which had happened the previous weekend, and whilst discussions were had about the officer's son who's in Brixton and parking difficulties in Brixton, nothing was said along the lines of, we are extremely unhappy with your door staff, and we will be challenging your premises to a review unless you address that. So I just wanted to deal with that point first. Then I wanted to deal with the incident of the 18th of November, because there is language that's used which I'm afraid is not supported by the evidence of the CCTV. The most obvious one is when there's an analysis of the CCTV minute by minute. It has Mr. Horn as a gentleman that is seizing one of these weapons, which are described as metal poles and the like. He was at Legoland on the night in question. And lest you come away with the impression that these were a stash of offensive weapons, it was a mop and a broom handle, which are kept behind the hatch for cleaning purposes. And remember, too, the context in which these were deployed in a defensive posture by the doorman, the two doormen that were out on the door. The protagonist had a fireman's axe, which was 4 foot long. So I wouldn't want you to get the wrong impression. And again, similarly, the offence or the events relating to the 27th of January, you remember when a gentleman was forcibly ejected from the premises through the rear fire door. Again, a close analysis of the CCTV, and we didn't do it. But suffice to say, I've seen it. And the police have had an opportunity since the application for review has been submitted to look at it again. But suggestions that the person that was being ejected was repeatedly punched in the face and kicked on the floor is not supported by the evidence. And it's perfectly clear on an analysis of the CCTV that the gentleman who was ejected's girlfriend was unhappy with his behaviour, and by the same token that of his male companion. And that's really all that I was going to say, because I didn't want you to come away, as I say, with the wrong impression. So we have been extremely grateful for the assistance offered by Mr. Sparrow. We were due to have a meeting on site on Friday, but the snows and the ice put paid to that. So we've been unable to actually finalise the positioning of the CCTV cameras. That's something that can be done very quickly. We've already rotated them into positions which are far better for purposes of surveillance. We are ready to go with the body camera, which is a suggestion helpfully made by Mr. Sparrow. And we're ready to go with additional cameras if it's thought by Mr. Sparrow that those are needed. As I say, we were unable to meet on Friday, and what we've built into these conditions, you will see, is a 28-day lead-in period for conditions 3, 4 and 5. And there are, it's been mentioned by your learned legal advisor that there are many other conditions which pertain to this licence that need looking at and tinkering with, because many of them are ancient and outdated and duplicated by other legislation. And it seems to me to be an ideal opportunity to review the whole of the licence and excise those conditions which, quite frankly, needn't be on there, shouldn't have been on there, are redundant. And we can do that, I hope, in the absence of the committee, after you've made your decision, and we, all of us here, can get our heads together and decide what is the appropriate form. But just as a general pointer, Mr. Sparrow has helpfully said that he would have no difficulty with mandatory conditions remaining and everything else coming off, and then these new conditions going on as well, and that seems to me to be an eminently sensible course. So there we have it. I've got Mr. Horn with me, who can answer any questions that you may have. I've got Mr. Lord, who's with me as well, but you've seen his statement. It's at page 5.1. And unless I've entirely misread the circumstances, I was rather hoping to leave it there.
Thank you. I have one question. Have you rescheduled the meeting for from Friday? Has it been rescheduled?
We've spoken today, and it's due to be next week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As long as it's been rescheduled. Gentlemen, have you any questions?
No questions this time.
Do you have any plans on introducing the Challenge 25? Which I understand is if anybody looks under the age of 25, you have to ask for identification.
Do we already operate Challenge? And do you have any difficulties? Yes, we do.
You do. That's fine, thank you.
In
And
fact, many of these conditions which are on here are already in place.
yes.
It's just a question of cementing them.
And do you anticipate and would be quite happy continuing with third-party door staff?
That was the suggestion made by the police, that they were unhappy with the idea of employed doormen who were employed by the club itself. If that it was an agency that was supplying the doormen. We've got Armour Securities doing it. Armour Securities, 120 employees, work well within the county, provide the security for Southend Airport, for example. And it makes sense, and we understand the reasoning that you have an agency that supplies the door staff. That way, one has more control of it.
Do you have the same door staff on every week, or do they change because of different shift patterns?
I'm going to ask you to.
We try to keep the same door staff. With the agency now, they'll be vetted, and when they settle to the club and the managers are happy with them, then they'll be asked to be retained, so we can get a regular 6 doorman who know the customers, who know the people who are barred, and get a rapport going. But sometimes, of course, they will change if they're on holiday or sick, but we're trying to get regular through the agency, yes.
And since these conditions were instigated at the last hearing that we had, have you had any problems?
Not serious problems. Unfortunately, the new door team was set upon by some local folks, and the police was extremely happy with the video response to the way we dealt with them. We were attacked. They weren't customers, as stated by some people. They were people who were banned from the premises. They had a go at our new door team, as unfortunately they do. It was dealt with, and then we had a report back from the police the next day saying thank you, your door staff handled that very well.
Excellent. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone got any closing statements they would like to make, officers from the RDC? 2 minutes.
No, all I would say is it makes sense to review these conditions and take off the old conditions, because otherwise they're going to conflict with these agreed conditions we've got today. So
Thank
we
you,
do need
Jane.
to go through the licence after.
Thank you. The applicant, have you got any, do you need anything for?
Very briefly, we are satisfied that these agreed conditions will allay our fears and protect the customers at the pub, and we're grateful for the degree of engagement that Mr Horn has shown with us. We're confident that with these conditions the premises will continue to be well run and not cause us a problem. And I can confirm the previous incident that's just been mentioned. We've got no concerns about the door staff on that night, and Armour is a security company we're used to dealing with in Essex and not had any concerns about.
Thank you very much. And the licence holder?
And in view of the position taken by the police, I have no closing statements.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to adjourn this now. We're going to go upstairs to make a deliberation. You're welcome to stay, and hopefully it won't be too long. Thank you. And there is water over there if you need it, I'm afraid. That's all there is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there's people on there. I'm reading a handwritten piece of paper, so please bear with me, and it's not in my handwriting. Save time. It is the committee's decision that in order to promote the licence objective of the prevention of crimes and disorder, the conditions submitted are agreed are to be imposed as written. Some save for condition 4 amended. Number 4, at least 5 SIA licensed door supervisors shall be on duty at the premises while licensable activities are taking place, and for at least 30 minutes after the premises have closed on a Saturday, bank holiday, Sundays, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and on any event where a temporary event notice is applied for and granted, or hours extended. There should be at least 6 such door supervisors deployed for the same time periods. All door supervisors, engaged, right, sorry. So, all door supervisors engaged outside the main entrance to the premises or supervising or controlling queues shall wear high visibility jackets or vests. The interim steps, premises to be suspended until each and every door supervisor employed by the premises A, undertake a refresher course in physical intervention skills provided by a trainer who themselves have been trained by a SIA endorsed awarding organisation and have SIA required qualification for training. B, to have received such training in the last 12 months and to suspend the licence immediately until A, the completion of the training of existing staff or the deployment of alternative SIA trained door agency staff to the satisfaction of licensing authority. These steps are to remain in place for 28 days. The conditions are to be implemented within 28 days of this adjudication. Further conditions of the licence are to be amended in agreement between the responsible officers of the licensing authority, the premises holder and the police. Thank you. Did I get a copy of this? You will get a copy of this in full in writing. Thank you.
You would, our request can revisit the question of the interim steps, which has to be done at this stage. you can then withdraw the interim steps that were imposed on the 8th of February, and I'm inviting you to do that.
Sorry, just to confirm,
Yeah, we met there.
steps to remain in place until the conditions are imposed within the 28-day period. So,
I understand. So,
and then the interim steps will be removed.
right. It's an odd way of wording it, I have to say. It might be a more elegant way, just simply to remove the interim steps and impose the requirement that these conditions must be complied with within 28 days.
In removing the interim steps, I think the committee were concerned that steps 3, 4 and 5 needed to be in place before the interim step was removed, because otherwise that will leave a 28-day window.
Yes.
But they are in place, aren't they?
I'm instructed that these are already in place.
We've replaced the door.
And I'm just concerned that the interim step is conditioned in the way that it is. I think it's going to cause operational difficulties for those that have to comply.
Could we just take the advice from our...
The interim will, we can confirm they will stay in place for the 21 days, as stated by our officer.
Unless conditions 3, 4 and 5 are compliant. But my concern is that the way that it's worded seems to imply a suspension.
No, it was worded in that way, that whereby there would have been a suspension had agency staff not been put in place. A suspension will only apply if there are no agency staff covering the door or any employed staff currently who have received the training. It wasn't that the licence was going to be suspended unless it was the case that sufficient staff could not be put in place. And I think the committee would like that to remain in place, certainly for the period of time up to when these conditions can be formally imposed by the licensing authority. But no, there's certainly no intention that the licence be suspended. As long as those staff are in place, then the licence continues.
Thank you. Is that it? Right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're finished, thank you. Thank you.